Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with One Piece episodes 1066 and on. And I say on because, as usual, we are just kind of going for it. We're seeing what we end up doing today, and I'm gonna stop it at whatever point seems, right. Whether it be thematically, whether it be it just feels personally like a good point, so on and so forth. So last time we had Kaido getting drunk off his ass. Yamato finally reached the basement, but had to contend with Smiley 2.0. And we also had Izo being a badass. So quite a few things going on. I'm sure we'll get more in the recaps and everything. Um, this raid just continues going on and on and on. Um, and I want to talk about that, and I believe I've talked about this briefly before, but I want to go into that here. So it's it's pretty common in the One Piece community, especially with those who prefer the manga. And this is, I'm not trying to insult anyone. I want to get that out of the way. But a lot of people who read the manga, and just even some people who are anime onlys, like to complain about the pacing of the series, and especially of post time skip arcs. Pre time skip, there's not as much complaining. There really isn't. But post time skip, there's a lot more, especially with arcs like Dressrosa and Whole Cake, and now especially Wano. And I've gone on record stating plenty of times I've never really seen the issue because with all of these arcs, even though some of it does sometimes feel a little dragged on, there's always something happening and it keeps you invested, it keeps you interested. Even if it feels like, oh, we should probably be past this part by now, when you actually sit down and watch the episodes, cool things are happening. And in the case of Wano, there's also the fact that you have really cool animation to look forward to here and there. And while the manga is not as drawn out, it is still drawn out. These arcs are still, like, really not that differently paced. The big difference is the medium, and a lot of people don't account for this when they're complaining about the anime's pacing. And again, I acknowledge that the anime is drawn out a little more because it's a different medium. Because especially because they want to make sure they don't catch up with the manga too quickly. But a lot of these people don't take in account the medium difference for that reasoning. A lot of people don't acknowledge that these arcs are still drawn out in the manga too. That these arcs are still exceptionally long in the manga. Like, that's not just an anime thing. People like to complain about the anime for various reasons. But they act like the manga is like perfection, and it's really not like that much better. And again, the only reason why the manga is a little worse is because of the medium difference. Because here's the thing. When you're reading a manga, it is an active medium. You are actively turning the pages, you're actively reading at your own pace, and you are controlling the speed at which it goes. In, let's say, 22 minutes, the normal runtime for an episode, you could read probably more content to the manga if you're a quick reader and everything, than the content of a single episode. Maybe 2 episodes worth in the same time span. It just depends on how quick a reader you are and all. And the just feeling of participating in an active medium like a video game or reading manga is very different than a passive medium, which the anime is. Anime, movies, that kind of stuff are passive mediums. You are sitting there watching. You are not engaging. You are not actively participating in the story like you do in a video game, or participating in how you read it or how fast you read it or whatever, like in manga. It is a different type of medium. It is ingested by the brain differently. As such, it needs to be presented differently. This is a thing that people don't seem to get either. When you adapt any kind of work to a different kind of medium, especially from a active medium to a passive or vice versa, it's going to be different. Why do you think all these novel adaptations of movies that have happened throughout the years are a lot more detailed and delve into different things that the movies themselves didn't? Because they have to, because they're novels, they're books. They have to add in that detail to work as a book. A direct one-to-one would not work. It could not work. That's the point. So when you adapt a manga or a light novel or whatever, something like that, to a anime, you have to make changes that make it presented different than in a manga. In a manga, the pacing is done different than an anime, and that's always going to be the case. The anime adds in different kinds of details that the manga doesn't have. Stuff like sound effects, voices, animation in and of itself. And that alone, that kind of stuff alone, is going to extend it. That's going to make it a lot more time consuming. Or, not time consuming is the wrong word. It's going to make it take more time for the same amount of content than in the manga. That's just how it works. And yes, Toei does extend that even further because, again, they're trying to make sure they don't catch up too quickly. So they have to drag it on a little more. They sometimes put in anime-only scenes, or do filler in some cases, or will show certain shots again and again, or even slow down certain shots and extend them and everything. Stuff like that. Because if they catch up too quickly, they would have to put the anime on hold. And their release schedule is kind of important for them making money. If they had to put the anime on hold for a long period of time to go according to Oda's writing schedule and everything, it wouldn't work properly. So instead, they just have to extend things a little bit. They have to drag on. And does that sometimes prove to be a little annoying? Yes. And I will be the first to admit that. As someone who has defended this and is defending this right now, I will be the first to admit sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes you get to the points where, yeah, it feels like it's dragging on. But the reason why I say it doesn't bother me, and why I say there's always something happening, always good stuff going on, is because there is. Every time, even if it feels like, oh, this arc has been going forever, or this part of the arc has been going forever, you turn on the episode and cool shit happens with the characters. It's like even the weakest episodes, it's like stuff is happening. It doesn't feel like it's stagnating. It feels like it's still moving on. And events are happening. And the reason for that is because there's so many fucking characters. Oda has flooded this world with so many characters that just this raid on Onigashima alone, like, has what, hundreds of unique characters in it? And a good amount of them are fighting. And so you have to go through all of those different fights. And that's going to take time. And for 22 minutes an episode, yeah, that's going to drag on. That's going to cause there to be a lot of episodes and a lot of content within this arc. And there will be some episodes where some characters aren't shown, because there's just so much going on, and that's how it has to work. There's no way to get around that. There will be some episodes where, in order to adapt the content in order and everything, there's going to be some points where not as much happens, or it's not as exciting as other episodes. And there's going to be some episodes where it's just balls to the wall insanity with, like, shockingly phenomenal animation. Like episode 1015, for example. That's just how it's going to be. Some people may say that's inconsistent, but that's the medium. Anime has always had that inconsistency. Even single core shows will have moments of inconsistency like that. There will be episodes that just feel less, because they're either adapting a story and that's just a slow point in the story, or they needed to have a slow episode in order to give the animators and the team working on it a little less work to do, a little more of a break. Whatever the case may be, sometimes that just happens. One of my favorite anime is Carol and Tuesday, and I stand by that no episode of that is bad. It's one of the only anime I can honestly say that about. I can't even say that about One Piece. But there are a couple episodes in there that are slower than others. And there are some episodes that are much more exciting than others. That's just how it is. And the same can be said for Death Note, or Cowboy Bebop, or anything. And it's not just anime, even. It's like cartoons and stuff as well. But using anime specifically to reflect the point of the differences between the source material and the adaptation. That's just how it is sometimes. And that's fine. That's normal. I think that the reason people complain about it with One Piece is because of how long One Piece is, and the fact that it is one of the biggest series in the world. Like, the manga alone is, I think it's the current #1. I think it passed Superman already. In terms of sales and everything. And it's insane that people are just like, oh, we'll judge this series more harshly, and we'll look at a series like Cowboy Bebop and act like it's perfect, even though it literally has the same kinds of issues here and there. It's like, Cowboy Bebop does that too. It's not a perfect series. Honestly, people over-exaggerate how good Cowboy Bebop is. And I admit it's a good series. But it's not as good as a lot of people say. But the point is, anime is going to have to, or should be, given some leeway due to the difference in medium. It's going to be different in how it's presented because of going from an active to a passive medium. That's just how it's going to be. If the pacing is an issue for you, there are options. There's a fan-made edit, I guess you could say, called One Pace. It cuts out a lot of the filler, it cuts out a lot of the reused moments and scenes, and it basically cuts down the pacing by a lot. It also switches certain things around so they're actually in like more manga accurate order, such as showing the flashback with Shanks at the beginning of the series before everything else instead of after like a couple episodes of Luffy and the gang getting started. But you could watch that if you want. Or you could, if you wish to, you could read the manga. It's like, but that's a personal thing for you. All these people I see bashing on One Piece's pacing and everything are acting like it's this big, like, series wide issue, or like it's like an actual negative to complain about and bitch about and insult fans if they prefer the anime over the manga about. And it's like, no, you just don't like it. That doesn't mean it's an actual problem with the series. It just means you don't like it. There are plenty of us who have no issue with the pacing. There are plenty of us who are fine with how it's paced out. Whether it's because we understand the difference in medium requiring that, or if it's just something that just doesn't bother us. Doesn't matter. I hate it when people try to spread their opinions as if it were a fact. Like, they try to say, like, oh, my subjective issue with this series is an objective issue. It's like, no, it's not. There's no such thing. Because anyone can disagree with anything you say about the series. You say, oh, this series has bad animation. Someone else could say, no, I actually think this animation is great. And that's perfectly valid. Because what is good and bad animation is in the eye of the beholder. Some people would say Panty and Stocking has bad animation. I say the animation is great. I think it works for what they're going for. And some people would say the same about stuff like Asobi Asobase or Pop Team Epic. But the style of it is exactly what they're going for, and as such, it's great. It works. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. And the same can be said for the story, the writing, the dialogue, all of that. The characters, the music, the voice acting, all of it is subjective. But people act like this stuff can be ranked on objectivity, and that's the issue. When people like try to like state or claim or make a big show out of the idea that something can be objectively bad, and if you disagree you have trash taste or something, that's what pisses me off. And unfortunately that's very rampant. That's very rampant in the One Piece and just wider anime community. And it's just something we need to stamp out, honestly. But we probably won't. But I have gone on way too long ranting about this. I apologize. If you actually stayed throughout this entire rant, kudos to you. I needed to get this out. And again, I think I've brought this up before and everything, but it's like sometimes it's just like I see this stuff so often within a short period of time that I just need to let loose. I've been seeing this again in discussion with how this arc is going. I've actually heard some people say like, oh, the anime should be ending Wano and going into Egghead, the Egghead arc now. And it's like, no, it should not. That would be way too close to where the manga is. Like that would not work. Because if the manga went on hiatus for any length of time, that would close the gap way too much. It's like, no, that it very much should not be that far along. It's just, it bothers me. And so sometimes when shit bothers me like this, I need to rant. It helps me basically let loose. and just get these emotions out and be able to move on. So, all of that being said, again, thank you if you actually stayed for this entire rant. If you have any thoughts on it, please leave those in the comments below. But we are going to move on with the episodes. So we are going to actually get onto the reaction now. So let's do so. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode, or episodes. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So yeah, I decided to end it after only 2 episodes here. We had 4 we could have gotten to total, because up to 1069 has already been released. But I felt like this was, I felt like this was the right amount of time to end it, because Big Mom is finally defeated. Kid and Law have taken out one of the Emperors of the Sea, possibly killed her. It's kind of unclear, because it's fucking Big Mom. Like, it's also fucking One Piece. It's exceptionally unclear if Big Mom is actually dead or not. I would presume she would be, but I would presume anyone would be from that. But the problem is, you can't really do that with this series. Because characters have survived insane shit, and especially the likes of Big Mom and Kaido and whatnot. Like, these two are resilient as fuck, and I don't even... It's anime, and it's especially One Piece. It's like, you can't really question too much, because if you do, you're going to be questioning everything. But for now, we're just going to consider at least that Big Mom is defeated. That much we can say is true. Big Mom is defeated. This battle is won. And that basically leaves just Luffy versus Kaido. Because even the Smiley 2.0, I forgot exactly what it's called. I just been calling it that. Even that was taken out. When Big Mom fell and everything, and it caused one of the explosives to go off, that caused Smiley 2.0 to burn out and everything, and so it's like, even that was taken care of here. So really, the only thing left, besides Momo pulling the island away, which he has started to make progress on, is the fight between Luffy and Kaido. Like, there's really not anything else going on. I mean, Zoro's now, I guess, falling. There's that. So that's got to be addressed. And we're probably going to address a couple other things randomly here and there. But obviously we have Zunisha coming in. That's a big thing. But the big question comes to, are we just going to focus on Luffy versus Kaido's fights from here on out? Or will something else start to happen here? I don't know. We're going to have to see, because there's still a bit of this arc left. I know we're getting close to the end, but there is still more left. I do know that. So we're just going to kind of have to see how this closes out. But I think that we're probably getting into the big finale of this raid. Like, I feel like we are going to be ending this soon. Like, within 10 episodes, I feel the fight against Kaido could be finished. That's how close I think we are. I could be wrong. It might not be that quick, but I think within 10 episodes from here. So within 10 episodes of 1067, we should be closing out the fight against Kaido at least. Of course, there will be the aftermath of the entire arc and everything. The big feast that everything has been building up to, and a couple other things and stuff like that. But the actual like battle is going to be over, is what I'm saying. I could be wrong. There might be more to this than I know, but it honestly feels like it's coming to an end, especially with Big Mom's defeat here. Um, it just feels like this is reaching its end. So we're gonna kind of have to see where it goes after this. Um, Kid and Law versus Big Mom has been one hell of a fight. The two of them working together like was 100% necessary. While Luffy has been stalemating Kaido on his own, that's Luffy. Kaido is definitely stronger than Big Mom, but I honestly don't think it's by as much as you would think. He is definitely stronger, but I think Big Mom is close to his level. And just like I think while Luffy is stronger than Law and Kid, they are close to his level. I'd say they're probably around the same level as Sanji, which is also still under Zoro. But in fact, actually, Law might be on like even a little higher, not quite on Zoro's level, but like maybe just under. If you want to account for his abilities and stuff too, though, that might bump him up to Zoro's level. But either way, like, so Luffy can solo an emperor for sure, at least to a stalemate, to some degree. But and even he's like, I do still think that Kaido is still stronger than Luffy. Not by a lot, but he is. Luffy just has the entire never give up attitude as well. Which is why he's been defeated multiple times by Kaido already and still kept going. Um, but yeah, the fact that Law and Kid both had to work together and even still struggled as much as they did against Big Mom, but the fact that they had to work together to defeat her like that and had to use a lot of like trickery and stuff to take her out, um, it speaks to just how strong the emperors are. And we know that the two remaining, Blackbeard and Shanks, are on a whole other level. Like Blackbeard specifically because of his trickery and shit. Like I think in terms of actual power, Blackbeard is probably the weakest of the emperors. But in terms of his abilities and his trickery, he's much more of an actual threat than Big Mom and Kaido. Big Mom and Kaido are much more direct, while Blackbeard is much more of a I'm going to fuck with you and I'm going to trick you and mess with you, and I have my entire fleet with me to help me out and all that. It's like Blackbeard is just going to be a nuisance in a different way. While Shanks, we don't entirely know. Like we got a taste for his abilities in Film Red, and very little elsewhere. We more see his influence throughout the rest of the series. But in Film Red, we got a little taste for his fighting ability, and he definitely has a pretty direct fighting way. He doesn't use like a lot of tricks. He doesn't have a devil fruit or anything. He uses his sword. It's like he's not like he's an intelligent fighter, but he's not like a mind games type of fighter like I feel Blackbeard would be. And as we've seen Blackbeard be kind of in his fight with Ace. So it's like Shanks is a little more direct as well, but we also know Shanks is on such a different level that it's not funny. Shanks is easily the strongest of the four emperors that we have here. It's not even close. Like they would always say like Kaido is the strongest in the world now that like the strongest creature in the world. Now that Whitebeard is gone, he was the strongest man in the world before. But it's like maybe in just pure brute strength, but in terms of like overall strength, like Shanks is 100% stronger. Hell, I would say Mihawk is stronger than Kaido. Again, maybe not in like pure physical brute force and all, but in terms of like overall strength and like and fighting intelligence and all of that, it's like those two are definitely stronger overall. Um, and like when both of them, but obviously talking about the Four Emperors, especially when Shanks comes into like really comes into play, that's going to be insane. Um, Blackbeard is not going to be the final villain because obviously we've still got the likes of Akainu and Emu and whatnot, or Imu, however it's supposed to be pronounced. um, but yeah, it's like there's definitely going to be more to this. Um, than just finishing off with Blackbeard. Blackbeard is definitely not the final villain. The final villain, basically, in general, is just the world government, which is blatantly obvious. Because literally everything kind of centers around how fucked up they are. It is literally just kind of centering around them being just an absolute shit show of corruption. Gonna be interesting to see where things go. Gonna be very interesting. Because I do know after Wano, the final saga starts. Not the final arc, the final saga. So, it's gonna really hit the fan. Shit's gonna really get intense, and stuff's gonna start being revealed. This is basically the last big like wall before the ending saga, before the closure of One Piece. And that's why this arc feels so big, why it feels like it's so powerful, why it has so much huge stuff going on. I mean, you had the freaking flashbacks with Roger and Whitebeard and Odin and everything, and it's like those alone were insanely important. Yeah, it's just I can't wait to see where this goes. This is gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed these two episodes. I almost kind of wish I could or I would have gotten to more, but at the same time, that was definitely the right point to end. Closing it off with the finalization of the Big Mom versus Kid in Law fight. It just made sense. It just worked. So yeah, now we just have to deal with Kaido and the fact that Zunisha is for some reason coming to Wano. We have no fucking clue why, but they are. And so that's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, it's like I can't believe I almost forgot that Yamato knows who Zunisha is just because of Odin's journal. It's like I was genuinely like about to say before Yamato mentioned that, I was legitimately about to say, Momo, Yamato wasn't there with you guys. He doesn't know who Zunisha is. But then Yamato speaks up. It's like, wait, Zunisha from Odin's journal? The elephant Odin talks about? It's like, oh wait, shit, yeah, he does. I forgot about that. I genuinely did. There is so much that goes on in this arc. There is so much that goes on in this series. Sometimes something slips my mind. Even with this being my favorite piece of media of all time, something will sometimes just zoom right on by. It happens. But yeah, I'm glad that everything seems to be going well right now. The question is, will that continue? Will that continue? Because again, right now, Luffy and Kaido are kind of at a standstill. They've been fighting to a stalemate for a while, which means it can go either way still. Obviously, Luffy's going to win in the end, but that doesn't mean that things are going to be easy getting there. But yeah, also, the last thing I'm going to touch on here, when Law like extended his sword and everything to go down through Onigashima and down into the earth and to the center of the earth to the magma and everything, you the thing I was thinking of, I probably should have said it during the reaction, but I wanted to pay attention and I just didn't want to sound like too much of a dork at the time. But the first thing that came to my mind when I saw it extending so far and everything is like, the first thing that came to my mind was sword get longer. Which is, I believe that's the quote from Yu Yu Hakusho with Kuwabara. Because Kuwabara is such a simple idiot, but he's our simple idiots and we love him. But yeah, I believe that's what he said. He's like, sword get long and sword get longer, when he wanted to like extend it and everything. I believe that's what he said. It's been a while since I've watched Yu Yu Hakusho, to be fair, so it might not be the exact phrasing, but that is what I was thinking of directly. So, yeah, that was fun. Also, just the fact that, in order to do that, he had to just straight up impale her. And she's just, like, mostly fine through that. It's, like, really, like, she's just more annoyed by the fact that she's literally impaled. It's just like, oh my god, what the fuck is she made of? But it all worked out. When it did go through the roof, though, into the basement, and we saw Yamato and everything, I did get worried there. I actually got worried that the explosives might go off, and one did, because Big Mom grabbed it and all. But luckily, it was just the one, and it did take care of Smiley 2.0, and luckily, things worked out very well because of this. So in a way, Law and Kid kind of stopped Smiley 2.0 and all of that too, rather than Yamato. Though Yamato freezing all the explosives was integral to things not blowing up further. So Yamato 100% was an MVP in that case too. It was a group effort. They were working together without knowing they were working together. You can't discount Yamato there. He did a great job. He's a good boy. He's best boy. But yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. This is gonna be a great finale, and I'm just really hyped for what's coming. Because, as I've said before, I do know a couple things that are coming. I just don't know all the context surrounding it. Because it's like the One Piece community is absolute shit with spoilers. They will just spoil the shit out of people without even giving a fuck. Because a lot of them, for some reason, think that, people don't care about spoilers, or that it's like, the manga chapter has come out, so we could just share whatever the fuck we want and it doesn't matter because anime onlys clearly don't exist. They don't even put spoiler tags on their stuff so you can hide their tweets and whatnot. They just state this shit. So there are a couple things that I know that are coming at the end of this arc. Again, I don't know all the context. I just know, like, the bare basics of, like, this is a thing that happens, basically. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting to see the context behind it all. And I'm very excited to find out how this is also going to be animated. Because again, I've seen what a couple of these things look like because of just seeing manga shots or whatnot. But again, I don't know the context behind this stuff, and I don't know like how it's gonna look in the anime comparatively. So there's a lot that I'm very much interested in still, with all the stuff that I even do know. Because again, it's just I know the basics. So yeah, luckily I haven't been spoiled further than that on this stuff. Luckily, it's just the basics. Um, but yeah, I'm very, very hyped. This is gonna get insane. I don't know if we'll get to the next two episodes anytime soon. Um, I think there's a week coming up where there's not going to be an episode. I think I heard. I think I heard there was going to be a week off sometime in the next couple weeks or something. But we're getting to the point where this is going to be closing out. It's very clear, and I'm just hoping that this finale is as hype as it can be, because this arc has been easily my favorite arc. So I just want the finale to live up to that. And I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of these two episodes of One Piece? What did you think of the defeat of Big Mom? And as always, if you know anything for the future, please don't tell me. Please, no spoilers. Because even though I do know a couple things, you might accidentally mention something that I don't know. Because, again, I don't know all the details. So, just to be safe, no spoilers in the comments. But let me know your thoughts on all of this in these two episodes. Or, like, if you want to comment on what I was talking about in my rant in the pre-thoughts, please let me know your thoughts on that, all of that as well. But for now, yeah, thank you as always so much for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.